There's this character going viral right now called Ling Long. He's from a skit series by a startup called Cluely. It's basically their version of The Office, and episode 16 hit close to 2 million views in under a week. And the reason people can't stop watching isn't the jokes. It's because Ling Long accidentally exposed something true about how workplaces actually function. So let me break down what's actually going on, because I think there's a real conversation underneath the comedy. Number 1. What makes Ling Long the Ling Long? The character is a Chinese engineer, Tsinghua University, ex-founding engineer at DeepSeek, now a systems engineer at a startup. On paper, that's the most impressive resume in the building. But the joke isn't his credentials. The joke is everything else. He doesn't do small talk. He doesn't do culture fit. He doesn't do team happy hours or values workshops or whatever the startup equivalent of a trust fall is. When something is inefficient, he says it's inefficient. When a question is obvious, he treats it like a question that is obvious. There's no performance, no armor, no filter. And the reason millions of people found that hilarious is because somewhere in every office, there's a version of Ling Long, and everyone around him is silently asking the same question. How is this guy not fired? And that question, I think, is the most honest question you can ask about how workplaces really work. Number 2. The culture fit conversation is not what you think it is. Every company talks about culture fit like it's this sacred thing. Like, if you don't embody the values and bring good energy and genuinely care about the mission, you don't belong here. And for most people in most companies, that's actually enforced. Someone who rubs people the wrong way, someone who doesn't collaborate well, someone who shows up and just does the work without performing enthusiasm, that person gets managed out. It happens all the time. But then there's Ling Long, and he's still there. And the reason is something nobody puts in the employee handbook, which is that culture fit is a metric companies apply to replaceable people. The moment someone becomes genuinely hard to replace, the rules quietly shift. Not officially, nobody announces it. The performance improvement plan just never materializes. The complaints from teammates get absorbed differently. The bar for what counts as difficult suddenly gets higher. What the company is actually doing is a cold calculation. Losing this person costs more than tolerating this person. That's it. That's the whole thing. Jessica Pearson does this with Harvey Specter in Suits. Every manager who's ever protected their difficult superstar does this. And Ling Long, even as a skit character, does this. He's kept around because the startup needs what he can do more than they need him to care about Slack emoji etiquette. And I want to be careful here, because this can be read two ways. One reading is, this is unfair. And it is. Two people can behave identically and get treated completely differently based on how much leverage they carry. The person without the leverage gets the culture conversation. The person with it doesn't. That's real, and it's worth naming. But the other reading is that this tells you something important about what actually creates leverage, because it's not what most people are spending their energy on. Number 3. How one person actually does the work of 7. The Ling Long character is presented as someone who operates on a completely different level from his colleagues. Like, he's solving problems while everyone else is in meetings about having meetings. And this isn't just a comedy exaggeration. There's real research on this. In software engineering specifically, the gap between the top performers and average performers isn't like 20% better. It's closer to 10 times the output. And similar patterns exist across knowledge work generally. So what's actually happening there? The first thing is that elite performers are ruthless about what they don't do. Most people in a workplace treat everything on the list as roughly equal. They spread their energy across all of it and end up doing all of it mediocrely. Ling Long, as a character, very clearly does not do this. He identifies the thing that matters and does only that thing. Everything else, the performative parts, the social maintenance parts, the optics parts, he just opts out. The second thing, and this one is underrated, is that elite output almost always has invisible infrastructure behind it. Ling Long in the show has the startup team handling things he doesn't have to think about. Harvey Specter has Donna handling things he doesn't have to think about. The solo genius is usually a myth because there's almost always a system or a person or a set of systems that's multiplying them. When we see someone producing at an extraordinary level, we tend to credit the individual and miss the infrastructure entirely. And the third thing is reputation as leverage. By the time Ling Long walks into a room in those skits, the dynamic is already established. Nobody challenges him in the same way they challenge someone else. That's not just personality. That's reputation doing work he doesn't have to do in real time. And reputation compounds. every time he delivers, the next time he has to do slightly less to get the same result. Most early career people never think about reputation as something to deliberately build because the returns are invisible for a long time. You put in the work and nothing seems to change, but it's accumulating, and at some point it starts generating returns on its own.
Number 4. The part nobody wants to talk about. Here's where I want to be honest with you about the Ling Long archetype, because I think there's a version of this that's genuinely aspirational and a version that's a trap. The aspirational version is, be so good they can't ignore you. Develop real technical depth. Be direct. Don't waste energy on performative work culture. Let your output speak. That's solid. The trap version is, decide that emotional intelligence, relationship building, and genuine collaboration are for lesser performers, and you're above that. Because what the Ling Long character also shows, and this is subtle in the skits, is the isolation. He's funny partly because he's disconnected from everyone around him. And in a comedy skit, that's the joke. In real life, that's a cost. The person who operates purely on leverage and output and never on genuine trust ends up in a place where their professional relationships are all transactional. And transactional relationships are fine when things are going well and very fragile the moment they aren't. The highest leverage version of this archetype isn't actually Ling Long. It's someone who has Ling Long's output and technical depth and directness, but also has enough genuine human connection that when something goes wrong, and something will always go wrong, they have people in their corner who are there because they actually want to be, not because they have to be. That's a harder thing to build, but it's the thing worth building.
So what does this actually mean for how we think about work? I think the reason Ling Long went viral isn't just that he's funny, it's that he accidentally holds up a mirror to something most people feel but can't quite articulate, which is that the rules of the workplace aren't actually what the workplace says the rules are. The real rule is create enough value and the stated rules become negotiable. The culture fit conversation, the collaboration requirements, the personality expectations, those apply until they don't, and they stop applying at the point where losing you costs more than tolerating you. Most people don't know where that threshold is. They're not trying to cross it. They're trying to be liked and safe and fine. And fine is fine. There's nothing wrong with fine. But if you want to understand how workplaces actually function underneath all the language about values and culture and belonging, Ling Long, as a character, gives you the most honest answer I've seen in a while. And he did it while straight-faced, completely unbothered, in a 60-second skit about a startup. That's kind of impressive.